Hello students, how are you? Welcome to your virtual classes. This is your English teacher, Mrs. Annama George. I sincerely hope that you are doing well and keeping safe in these difficult moments. Today, we will listen to a story of a little boy who is describing about his father's childhood. This lesson is about a little child, and the name of the lesson is How Daddy Played Ping Pong by Alexander Raskin. First, we will have a small note about who is Alexander Raskin. Alexander Raskin was born in Belarus, which is now a part of Soviet Union. He is a famous Russian author. One of his widely recognized works is When Daddy Was a Little Boy. Now, let's listen to this beautiful story. When Daddy Played Ping Pong by Alexander Raskin. When Daddy was a little schoolboy, a new game was invented. It was called ping pong. Nowadays, lots of children play ping pong. But in those days, ping pong was all the rage. It was played from morning till night in every school and courtyard, on tables, benches, grand pianos, and on the floor. Some even played at night. Many kids forgot that anything else existed except ping pong. There were ping pong matches in Little Daddy's school every single day. Every class played each other to determine the school champion. Then they played each other and the winner became the district champion. Then there was a city tournament. Then Moscow and Leningrad played each other. Little Daddy was amazed. He just couldn't understand why it was so interesting to keep bouncing a little white ball back and forth with little paddles. Why don't you try it? One of his friends would say. It's no fun. It sure is. No, it isn't. Just try it once. I don't want to. This conversation was repeated several times. Naturally, one bright day, little Daddy got a ping pong paddle and took his place at one side of the table. And that was the end of him. I say one bright day, but little Daddy's parents considered it to be one of the darkest days of their lives. And all because little Daddy became fascinated by ping pong. In the beginning, he couldn't manage to hit the ball. When he finally learned to hit the ball, it couldn't bounce on the table. At last, when little Daddy managed to hit the ball and it bounced across the table, he took a real interest in the game. He discovered that there were different ways of hitting the ball. You could chop it or send it into a spin off or to one of the corners. A good player could make the ball bounce on the part of his opponent's side of the table that was the hardest to reach. Daddy still thinks ping pong is a wonderful game. But back then, little Daddy thought it was the most fascinating game in the world. He gave up reading. He stopped doing his homework. The only reason he went to school at all was to play his favorite game. He began playing better and better, but his marks kept getting worse and worse. The teacher took him aside and talked to him several times. She explained that there was a limit to everything. She even reminded him of saying, there is a time for everything. Little Daddy didn't argue because it was of no use. How could he make her understand that ping pong was the work of his life while everything else was play? He became so good at the game that he could beat many of his friends. The day he beat the school's third best player, his teacher said, "Things cannot continue as they are now." She wrote a letter to Grandpa and Grandma, which they never received. Because little daddy pulled it out of the mailbox, read it, and tore it up. It was so awful that he tore it up into tiny bits. His teacher sent his parents another letter. It was still worse than the first one. So little daddy tore it into still tinier bits. I am ashamed to say so, but that's exactly what happened. Little Daddy's teacher was very surprised, for Grandpa and Grandma never came to see her. Just as she was about to write them a third letter, Little Daddy beat the school champion at ping pong. After that, he decided there was no use going to school anymore, so he didn't. Every morning, he'd make believe that he was going to school, but there were no notebooks or textbooks in his school bag. Instead, there were two ping pong paddles, a net, and three balls, and a sandwich, which was Little Daddy's lunch. All day long, he played ping pong. Little Daddy had many new friends, all of whom were equally crazy about ping pong. He knew every Moscow champion by sight. The famous Falvik brothers greeted him as an equal. He became a member of the junior team. He'd already lost his real first